Nice to meet you face to face.
Well, exactly. I know. I was just going through some of the old visual posts, and I was like, "Wow, I featured you a bit." And I thought I've only seen you on the Instagram and stuff, and it's
Yeah,
great to actually catch up with you and see
yeah,
you
yeah,
on a screen rather than just emails.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, nice.
Yeah. Where are you based in San Francisco?
Yeah, yep. Been
Uh,
here 18 years.
Wow. What's the time there? Is it like super early?
Oh, it's 9 a.m.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay. Cool.
just getting started.
Excellent. All right. Well, thanks for joining me for the podcast. I'm not sure if you've listened to any of them, but if you
Hmm.
have, fantastic. If you haven't, don't worry about it. You listen. Maybe you won't listen to yourself. A lot of people don't like listening back to their own
Yeah,
voices,
yeah,
especially me. But this is pretty much finding out your journey into graphic design, actually running your own studio.
yeah.
So, if it's okay, we'll jump straight back into there. When was the moment or spark that made you think, actually, I might want to be a designer?
Okay, I'll go way back, I
Yeah,
guess,
yeah,
to just
please
sort of
do.
childhood. I grew up in quite a creative household. Like my quite a sort of progressive liberal arts household. My dad was a music teacher and a guitar maker.
Oh, nice.
Um, and my mom, she'd studied drama at drama school. They used to be sort of hippies. So it was a very creative household, music, arts. They used to take me and my brother to art galleries when we were young. So we're always kind of just like aware of music and arts and creativity. And um, so yeah, like just I knew my dad had gone to art college as well when I was really young. It was like a
Mhm.
thing. So I always had this idea that, and I used to love to draw as well. I was just like kind of artistic kid. So yeah, that was kind of like our family just had that sort of, it was that sort of creative household. And there were other things as well growing up, like I used to collect stamps, I used to collect beer mats, I used to collect matchbooks. And I think it was, I didn't know at the time, but it was probably just like the graphics or just like the taxonomy of it all these different things and different images. So there was that really early on. But also my brother was, he's 4 years older than me, and he was really into photography. We had a dark room in our house that they make.
Wow.
We had a recording studio and a dark room in our house, which is
Okay.
kind of cool. And my brother was into photography, and he had an airbrush. So he sort of tinkered with, he went on to do advertising. So yeah, we had an airbrush in the house and there was some letter set. So again, I didn't know I wanted to be a graphic designer, but it was always sort of there bubbling away.
Mhm.
But it was when I left school, when I didn't do A levels, I did my GCSEs and then just said, I want to go to art college. Like I knew I wanted to go to art college and my parents were just like, yep, fully supportive. And it was then that I did a foundation course and, explored photography and image making, did ceramics, did printmaking. And
Yeah.
that's kind of where I started to understand like, um, a little bit of this, what graphic arts was. I didn't really know it was graphic design. I wasn't really exposed to typography at that stage,
Yeah.
but yeah, I thought I wanted to be an illustrator at first. I was really into kind of collage and pop art and things like that.
And where was home? Because obviously you're in San Francisco, but you don't sound like you're
Yeah,
from San Francisco. So
yeah.
where
I'm
where
from
where
West.
was this all happening?
Yeah, this is in. I grew up in a town called Bingley in West Yorkshire. So I went
Right.
to art college in Bradford. I went to university in Leeds. So I'm from Yorkshire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you did that, and then that kind of got you into art school, art college?
Yeah, so I did this foundation course and I was exploring kind of what I wanted to be. Like I said, I thought I wanted to maybe get into illustration. We had a course tutor that sort of introduced us to kind of Bauhaus. It was like there's this,
Okay.
or the De Stijl movement in Holland,
Yeah.
and that was where it got really exciting for me. Like I saw how typography was artistic and it felt avant-garde. I think that was my first exposure to graphic design was just that on this foundation course, this whole idea that there was constructivism, there was this place called the Bauhaus, and there was this thing called the Stil, and that's when I was like, "Oh, this is really interesting." And I guess I've always been a color inside the lines type of guy. Like we would do life drawing and I would see these people doing these beautiful gestural big strokes. And I
Mhm.
would basically be just trying to technically draw a person. So I always liked this idea of sort of precision and control and constraint. So it was that kind of thing that really kind of got me going. Another thing was like music's been a massive influence on who I am as a creative as well. I've always been into music. I was a metal kid, I was into metal and
Yeah.
grunge, hardcore punk. And then gradually got into like, electronic music. I was obsessed with craft work. Like that was like my thing was craft work. So again, there was this like when I discovered the constructivism and Bauhaus, I was like, oh, whoa, that clicks with that whole craft work world. So that's kind of how I got a little bit into graphic design or the interest of it. But it was really when I went to a university in Leeds that
Yeah,
I discovered, like a friend of mine said, "Oh, I've just bought this book from Lars Muller. It's called Joseph Muller Brockman." And that was just like, boom. I was
yeah,
like, that, Wim Crowell, Otto Eicher. So it was very much my influences at university were that sort of modernism, post-war modernism. And, the rest of the course, like people were looking at like David Carson and what was going on in America, and everyone was on the
yeah.
Mac, and I was almost stubbornly retro. I was like, "No, I'm inspired by the 30s, 40s, and 50s." I was just always a bit like that. Like I liked that looking backwards a little bit and design history. So yeah, that's a lineage, I guess, of how I really
Oh, wow.
got into graphic design. It was through that sort of European modernism.
And then what happened? Where did you start your careers? Did you stay in Leeds, and work, or did you come down to London?
No, it was the day I graduated, I moved to London. Literally the day.
Oh,
Not
wow.
graduated, the day we got like the course results pinned up on the wall or something. My final year of university, I wrote my thesis on Dutch graphic design, on modernism and Dutch graphic design, and I traveled the Netherlands doing research for my dissertation or whatever you call it.
Yeah.
Um, and while I was there, I was interviewing people at different design schools. I met with the author of like Modern Module, that cool Wim Crawl book,
Yeah, yeah.
and did a little interview with him. So anyway, that was my kind of course final project. And on this trip, I met an American woman in Amsterdam called Patricia. And little did we know we would be married, have kids, move to America, and run a business together called Manuals. So
Oh,
anyway,
wow.
yeah, when I graduated, my American long distance girlfriend moved to England with a one-way ticket, and we moved to London. And that's where I sort of started my career. I spent my first 10 years of my career in London.
Wow. Which studios? Was it a corporate or was it music kind of film?
Yeah, when I first moved to I was kind of quite stubborn, like as naive as a young designer. I moved to London, and really, honestly, there were like 3 or 4 studios that wanted to work at. There was,
Yeah.
like North, Graphic Thought Facility were big on my list, Cartilage Labie, and I met with them all and had good reception to my portfolio, but they were so small, that's like very
Mm.
rare that there's an open position. So, and I was a little bit stubborn. I was like, I only want to work for a few small studios. Um, what ended up happening, I landed an internship and my first junior design job in a design studio doing like wine labels and food packaging. It wasn't really what I wanted to
Okay.
do, but
Yeah.
I was like, I'm in the industry. I've got a job and I'm learning and
Mhm.
I'm learning about Pantones and all this stuff. So yeah, my first job was in that. I went on to work at a design studio called Form, where we did like music packaging, and then I worked at Spin for a few years,
Yeah.
and then Made Thought. So that was kind of my London. I kind of moved around every 2 or 3 years, maybe a little bit impatient,
Yeah.
but yeah, those were the studios that I was really lucky to work at.
Ah. So then Patricia and yourself jumped to San Francisco. What made you think about starting up a studio? Was it timing? Was it the opportunity? Or was it
Mm.
like, actually, I'm just going to go for it?
Well, I'd worked in these London design studios, and they were all quite small,
Mm.
back then. Like when I was working at Made Thought, it was me and the 2 founders for a while, just
Yeah.
the 3 of us, and then Chris joined. He now runs Commission Studio. It was like the 4 of us for a year or 2. So I kind of got a lot of exposure into seeing other workings of a small studio. I've always been quite ambitious and wanted to start my own, one day start my own design studio. I kind of thought about it in London, nearly maybe did it, but then yeah, this opportunity came up where Apple contacted me from California while I was at Made Thought, and asked me if I wanted to fly out, all expenses, and interview to join their team in Cupertino, which was something I had never considered. I always thought I would be in a really small creative studio and maybe
Okay.
create my own. So this opportunity came up, bit of a curveball to move to California and join Apple.
And how long did you stay there for?
Yep, I was there for about 2.5 years. Yeah, but it was an exciting moment. I joined in 2006 to help launch the very first iPhone. So that was my project for a year. I was in a secret locked up room working on a working on a secret project that I couldn't tell anybody about, but it was the iPhone. So it was a really exciting time to be there and
Oh,
help.
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially because you can't tell anyone what you're working on. I think that's the hardest thing, isn't it?
Yeah,
That's
I
like,
couldn't
"Oh, I
couldn't
can't
tell
say
my
it."
wife, couldn't tell my
Mm.
friends, couldn't tell my colleagues. There was only a small group of us. So yeah, it was pretty
Oh,
exciting.
wow.
So yeah, I was there for 2.5 years.
No, that's brilliant. So then let's jump to a bit forward then to manual. So you've obviously had great experience in London, great experience over in California at Apple. And then there must have been a moment where you thought, actually, I'm going to do this myself or with my wife stroke business partner as well.
Mm.
And did you have any clients or was it like, let's just take a bit of time and actually then go out and have a look?
Yeah, kinda coming out of my experience at Apple, I felt I was quite lucky in that I'd had these 2 sort of different chapters of my career. Like, I'd gained a lot of experience working in London, working in kind of culture and identity work, lifestyle, seeing how a small studio is run.
Mm.
And then Apple was, really different experience. I'm working with a cross-functional team, hundreds of people, working on products that go into millions of people's hands. It was like, but I
It's
loved it.
crazy.
I loved the, um, just the sort of impact and reach of that type of work as well. But equally, it frustrated me. I was never really built for in-house. It takes a lot of
Mhm.
patience, and you contribute a really small amount. And yeah, so it was never really right for me. So coming out of Apple, the only option for me was just like I'm going to start a studio in San Francisco. At that time, I didn't feel like there were a lot of design studios, and we would have something kind of unique to offer. My background, kind of coming from the Europe and from London. So really, no, had no clients,
Right. Okay.
just sort of a bit of confidence and some naivety to say, "Look, I'm gonna start a studio in San Francisco." It was just me and a couple of freelancers for a year, and then Patricia, my wife, joined me after a year to really help the business side of things. Yeah, I mean, I'm very lucky actually, my first client was Apple. I left on good terms. That was a nice little safety net just for a few months while I was finding our first clients,
Oh, well,
and getting it off the ground, so very
that's
grateful for that.
that's great. So how long has manual been going? It was about 15 odd years or?
Yeah, this is our 16th year, which
Oh,
is
wow.
unbelievable. Like it's gone really fast. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Can I ask where the name came from?
Yeah, it was a name that I thought up, and then I think it took a year or 2 for me to just rationalize why I liked it as a name. And but yeah, I guess there's kind of like 2 or 3 meanings that I ascribe to that name, and one is probably the most obvious, where sort of to do something manually, or manual means by hand with a lot of
Yeah.
control and human, dexterity behind it. So there's something about craft and
Mhm.
bespokeness that we like in that word. Also, a design manual is a kind of instruction way of doing things. A lot of what we're doing is for clients, putting design systems in their hands, and it's about communication. So I like that other meaning of the name manual. But I think the real meaning that I really like, which is why we use this little camera dial as a little, it's not really a
Yes.
logo, it's like our little mascot, is,
Yeah.
yeah, just think back to photography, thinking about when you're in manual mode on a camera, you're looking at the world, responding to it. How
Mhm.
much light shall I let in? What am I focusing on? What's the depth of field? And you have sort of full control of the visual outcome. So I like that idea of like looking at in the world, responding to it, and then creating an output. So that's kind of like manual on a camera. Those are the kind of ideas bubbling away under that name.
Yeah, it's lovely. I noticed when you changed your avatar to that. I really liked it, and your explanation of it kind of makes it all seem to work really well, obviously.
Almost
Um,
like I designed it that way.
yeah, almost.
Post rationalized. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the art of doing it for
Uh-huh.
20 odd years, right? I was gonna say, you seem to be working within that tech space, which is amazing, right? I think of some of the projects that we featured, like a Boom, for instance, the kind of
Mm,
the Concord-esque. How did that land? Was that someone in contact with you, or was that an introduction, or was that
mm.
a pitch process? Maybe it's me thinking that kind of California feels maybe like quite fast paced with this kind of startup tech
Oh,
uh,
absolutely.
going on. So it always feels like there might be an opportunity all the time. So
Yeah. That's one of the things I love about having a design studio in California, specifically in the Bay Area in San Francisco. Um, obviously coming out of Apple, that's a
it's a
arguably the
big one.
best. It's
Yeah.
it's a pretty good tech company. So that was always kind of going to be a little bit in the DNA of the studio. I mean, although we were always really careful. I think when Trisha and I first set this out, we said, look, we really don't want to just specialize in doing tech. We still want to do work in arts and culture, food and drink, and we're going to make a real effort to always balance our portfolio. So we're not just servicing tech. Because when I started Manual, it was like the gold rush of apps. Like, the iPhone
Oh
is
yeah, of
apps were a
course.
thing. So everything was an app. So we always made an effort to balance the opportunities coming from technology with other, yeah, non-tech clients, and that's still true today. But we are in the Bay Area. It is a really exciting place for technology. It's the epicenter. It's where products that we use every day around the world, they all come
Yeah,
out of San Francisco. I mean, whether it's social media, whether it's self-driving cars. So it's always been part of our studio. And yeah, we helped launch Waymo self-driving cars, and
that's right. Yeah.
so yeah, Boom Supersonic came about. Yeah, again, just I mean, they're not from the Bay Area actually. They started in Colorado, but it was through that kind of venture capital, network of the Bay Area. So, yeah, no, it wasn't a pitch. They reached out to us directly, and we were lucky to work, and they were quite early stage. They were really had this vision for creating a supersonic aeroplane that had never been done before since Concorde, and it was an exciting project to work on. And since then, we've recently worked with a space company that's creating a space station. We're working with another aerospace company and working with another autonomous vehicle company. It's like there's a lot of kind of like deep tech that's very future facing, and it's exciting. It's really exciting to be doing that
Yeah.
kind of work. Yeah.
And how many people in the studio then? Yourself, owner and creative director, and do you have a good team and still
We're
put in freelancers?
we're pretty small. We've always been, we're smaller than most people think, actually. In San Francisco, I think there's 9 of us. There's always about sort of 10 to 12 of us.
Yeah.
Um, and then we've set up a new, studio last year in Amsterdam, which is, in the early stages, but that we've got an European outpost, which is sort of like fluctuating between like 2 and 6 people.
Right.
So yeah, between both studios, probably about 15 of us. So we've
Wow.
always we've always been quite a boutique, small style, scale of studio.
Wow. And do you kind of share the work? So if a client comes from San Francisco or America, the people in Amsterdam will get work on it. So it's more just having two studios, two different locations, but being as one entity, or is it very much two
Th
separates?
it's a bit of both. Um, yeah, the Amsterdam studio is working on European projects, specifically, independently working on those, but we do collaborate. There's a couple of projects yeah, we're working on, for a US client, and the Amsterdam studio is involved, and we can, you know, take advantage of a 9-hour time zone and different skill sets, and bat things back and forth in Figma. So yeah, we do collaborate, and we always will as a studio, but equally, you know, if a European project comes in, that's for the Europe studio, and we primarily service kind of US clients. Yeah.
Wow.
Mm.
Jumping back to when you might have been a junior in studios, was there a bit of advice that someone might have said, or just a moment where you've actually held on and you might even pass that down to another junior or another member?
Hmm. I don't think there's a sort of singular piece of advice that came from like a mentor or anything in that respect, or one that I can't remember. My memory is terrible. I can't even remember what I
Mm.
did last year, let alone 15 years ago. But I think one thing is communication skills are really important. I kind of learned that throughout different design roles. Like if it's all good to create what you think is a great piece of design that solves the problem, but if you can't take someone on a journey, if you can't communicate and present to a client or even internally, your
Mhm.
idea is not going to land. So I think that that's something I learned kind of early on, is how important the selling of ideas is, if you want to call it that. Like presentation is really important. How do you take someone on a journey and convince them? So I think that's one thing I've learned. I've learned through probably more so through colleagues as well, just seeing how they had presented early on. I kind of picked that up through osmosis, but I think that's kind of a really underestimated part of what we do. Like, yeah, we all talk about design and typography, and yeah, it's really important. Of course, I've learned that from mentors, but it's really about how can you be a really good listener, but also have a point of view and be able to kind of get that across to a client that really lands.
Mm.
Because if you can't put good work out in the world, then what are we doing?
I think over the years, we've all had slight moments when it's gone a bit horribly wrong. I wish we didn't actually take this project on. And when you started, maybe, did you take work on because you needed the money, or was it just you do the work through the passion?
Yeah. Again, we were quite lucky in the early days of Manual because we probably worked on a couple of projects that were just like, hey, it's just a project. It's not going to be a portfolio job. But
Yeah.
we've never worked with we're very good at weeding out, not working with, like, just mean, like, bad people or mean pe we
Yeah.
there's always a good conversation to begin any sort of relationship, and we're always trying to find someone who we're like, "Yeah, we can work with this person." So, yeah, in the early days, of course, when you're trying to build a studio, you'll take almost any project,
Yeah.
but no, I think, those times where a project's really gone wrong is it's again, it's sort of down to communication. It's often when there's like a real fundamental misunderstanding or there's been a miscommunication. And I guess the worst thing a client's ever said to us, yeah, actually, it didn't happen that long ago. It was, only a handful of years ago. We were working with
Okay.
an, yeah, I'm not going to name names. We were working with an arts and culture client who had a marketing director who came from a very sort of corporate background. It was quite surprising. I was like, oh, this person's not really worked in arts and culture, but they're working at this nonprofit culture. Our team had done a whole bunch of really thoughtful design and we presented it. And I think the feedback was kind of like, this is just fonts and colors and some images. I could have done it myself in Word. So,
Oh,
and that was where it was like, oh, there's such a fundamental misunderstanding. It felt like there was such an education that was going to need to happen to even get on a level playing field those are the times when something's gone wrong, when we're just like, "Oh, we're in a place where this is gonna be really, really hard." Um,
and
but
how
luckily, that's very rare that happens.
okay.
But
But
yeah.
let's carry on with that. So then how did you maneuver and direct that to say it's not well, design is a handful of fonts and colors, but it's how we use them. So
Exactly, yeah. We had we had a conversation, we had a thoughtful conversation. We were gracious in that we came away from that and said, "Okay, well, here's what we think you're saying." But there was this idea of kind of like, it needs to have more things and textures and patterns for it to look like graphic design. I think there was this desire for decoration or something.
yeah,
So we graciously took that away and said, "Look, we'll do another round. Here's what we're doing. Here's why we try to do it. Here's the communication objectives." And we came back with another round. And again, it did not land at all. And the feedback directed at my team was just like kind of disrespectful. And we actually resigned from the project. Which we really don't do often. But
yeah,
we got to this point where it was like, we're on different planets here. This isn't going to work. So
yeah,
we actually ended it there.
yeah. It
Yeah.
could become detrimental to well, it becomes a job that no one loves, right? It's one of those
Yeah.
things. If you present something that you're not 100% behind, just get that on the wall, present that, and then they go, "Oh, we really like that."
Oh,
Uh,
actually, that's back to that question you just
Go
asked
on.
me previous, which
Yeah,
was, what are some advice
yeah,
that you learned early on? Never share any piece of work with a client that you would not be happy with. So we don't. We're like, it's good to show your process, certainly, and we're not the type of design studio that comes back and says, "Here's one design." So we're not,
yeah,
we like to involve the client in the process and make sure that they can see. But again, never show work that you're not happy with. Yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's a number one piece of advice for young
Yeah,
folks.
because 9 times out of 10, they might go with it, and then
Well, you just
someone's
design
gotta love it.
it's not about meeting a quota, you know? You shouldn't ever write a proposal that says, "We're gonna show this many." You should be solving the problem in a couple of ways. So it should never really just be about, we need to meet a number of design things that we're gonna present, so let's just present these. Like, it should always come with a real strong point of view and a recommendation.
Yeah, definitely. Now, your dad made guitars because you play guitar? I'm sure I might have seen you
I
have a
do, I have
few
quite a few guitars.
guitars.
Yeah, I used to
Yeah.
be in a band, yeah, back in the day, and, I've always played guitar. I'm not I don't play it every day. It's more like a just hobby fiddle around thing. But yeah, yeah, for sure. I've got two of my dad's guitars that he made and
Oh, wow.
others as well. Yeah.
Are they electrics or acoustics?
Um, the ones that I have that my father made are both acoustic, but he made a lot of jazz guitar, sort of semi-hollow
Oh,
body Les
nice.
Pauls. Like he was a jazz head and made jazz guitars.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah,
Lovely.
yeah.
Lovely. Yeah, no, I've got a few scattered around behind
Oh
different
yeah, have
clouds. Yeah, yeah.
I see posters in the background there. I don't see
Yeah.
guitars.
And they're in the they've got
Oh yeah, I see. Yeah, yeah.
3 in the corner, 3 in that corner, then in the wardrobes, there's just far too many. I was speaking to another person, I think there is something with that music creative crossover, right? You know?
I mean,
Uh,
certainly, yeah. Record covers, like, absolutely. I remember first opening Sergeant Pepper's when I was God, I don't know how young I was, but, like, and just looking at that image of the Beatles in those
yeah,
satin color and just like, what is this? Like, that packaging, that experience. I think what got me into graphic design at the end of the day was probably record covers. if I really think back to it, they
Mm.
was just sucking it in through osmosis, and whether it was heavy metal album covers and drawing, AC/DC and Slayer logos, or whether it was, Blue Note, but, like, yeah, music's I think there's a lot of graphic designers that got into this business through music, so
Yeah,
whether it's Peter Saville stuff, but yeah, it's probably a common theme, I would imagine.
brilliant. So we spoke about some of the tech work and obviously some of the art stuff. Is there a client that you'd love to work with, and have you ever gone after them? You know, sometimes studios go, "Who's a client you want to work with? How do we? Let's think about a way of targeting it, and then let's go for it."
Um, I get to our detriment, it's always been very incoming. I think all of our new business, all of the opportunities, every client you see on our portfolio has probably come through incoming inquiry or a referral. Um, so yeah, we're not doing a lot of like active outreach and cold call and chasing things. We should do, but we've been quite fortunate. I mean, what would be it? Yeah, it's always hard to answer that. What's a dream project and a dream
Yeah.
client? They're so different, like we've worked with a
You've worked
space
there.
company. I think that was pretty cool, so um I think something like a big film festival or a big music festival, something that's sort of really experiential, I think would
Yeah,
be really great, where we're involved in set design, stage design, wayfinding, digital, and all the merchandise and ticketing. Something like that, like a multi-day kind of a festival or experience, I think would
yeah.
be a really lovely one for us.
I'm just looking at the space project, the Vast.
Yeah.
Is that it?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is awesome.
Those guys are great. Those guys are nuts. They're building a space station, like, really quickly in Los Angeles, and, like, for real, it's gonna be in space next year. It's like,
Wow.
wow.
And you've been allowed to go and see it, and
No, we haven't gone down and seen it. I mean, yeah, it's, like, super locked
top
down,
secret, right?
top secret, all this kinda stuff, so no. But we will one day. We'll go down and see it when it's finished. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the equivalent of your Apple iPhone, isn't it? Just like
Yeah.
yeah, that to that.
Little
Wow.
bit of a different scale. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So, yeah, I mean, so, yeah, we're lucky to have worked on some projects, things that if you'd have told me 20 years ago, I'd have said, "Yeah, that sounds like a really good design challenge." Yeah.
yeah. What motivates you? What's the thing, Tom, that's the key motivation? Is it something personal, or is it that the fact that you love doing what you do?
Um, I'm quite restless and a bit competitive. I love the idea of just what's next. Like, I don't wanna look back on projects. It's
Right.
I always have I don't know where I get it from. I just have this sort of insatiable appetite to keep pushing and keep learning, and quite driven. So it's kind of like, whenever, for example, like, if we're halfway through a project and, something gets approved, like, yep, the system and the design's approved. We love the logo. My first thing is, right, what can we do now to push it even further? It's not about resting on just like, oh, it's got approved, bill it. It's kind of like, what can we do next? So I don't know where I get that motivation from. I think there's just this always learning and staying interested. I think I'm really driven by our clients. Like,
Mm,
it's pretty cool to be sitting down with a scientist or a researcher or an engineer, and learning about a completely something I know nothing about. And we're the dumbest people in the room, and everyone's really smart. It
yeah.
feels really lucky to be in that position where you go to work every day and you're sort of like a journalist learning
Wow.
about something new. So I think that's what really motivates me. Every day you're learning something new. Yeah. And I think we're very lucky in this world of brand identity design and branding, because when I think about like the different design disciplines of whether it's architecture or industrial design or interior design, whatever it is, but we're so lucky to
Mhm.
be at the intersection of so many different disciplines, right? Like, if when you really think about it, someone's experience from waking up in the morning, brushing their teeth, eating breakfast, drive to work, listen to music, go to the movies. It just somebody's day is full with hundreds of little interactions with products, with things, and we can design all of those things. Whether it's an interface, a piece of packaging, we can interrupt all those little moments in someone's everyday life. And I just think that's what motivates me as well. Is like trying to fix the world of like it's like, how can I make all these moments much better? Just more beautiful, less friction. I think that's the thing that ultimately motivates me, is like, how can design sort of just like be part of everyday life, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's lovely. I was gonna quickly talk visual electric as well. the world is going towards AI. We're all using it. There's
It looks
probably
that way, doesn't it?
yeah, there's probably an AI thing on here. I'll probably use an AI thing to do an edit after I've done a first process of it all.
Yeah.
Um, I thought that was a really interesting a project, but also as a product. I think it's one of those pretty smart AI
Yeah.
image makers, right? I can use it, so it's got to be good, right? I don't have to join Discord and do it. I'm like, what's
Exactly.
Discord? I don't. Well, hold on.
Yeah. They identified AI image generation and video generation before Visual Electric was this, yeah, strange, like, chat interface. It felt like
Mm,
you were just in these funny chat rooms, which was not that's not how designers work, right? We wanna
right.
work in a piece of software. They kind of found this marriage of kind of like Figma meets Midjourney. So it feels that you're in a collaborative space. It feels that you're making. It feels that you're designing using AI, and it's yeah, it's a really fun tool. Yeah, we're on this precipice that everything's AI at the moment, and we're tinkering with it. We embrace it. You know, we're not
Mhm.
using it for final output per se for projects. We still commission original photography and original illustration, but we're experimenting. We're using it as part of our design process. And yeah, I think that yeah, Visual Electric we're biased because it's a client, but yeah,
Yeah,
it's a really great tool. It's really well thought out and, fun to use.
it's great. I've been using it as well for certain client projects, just
Oh,
for
really?
just visualization, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
It's you know,
Tom yeah.
it's so good.
No more stock photography, you know, like, yeah, that's the thing is, like, just going through stock photography is soul destroying, so if you can make your own, then, you know, that's
I know. Actually, thinking about it, there was a time, remember Image Bank and stuff like that. They used to invest all that money in the
oh, we used
books,
to get the books, yeah, I used to
yes,
go through them.
CDs and stuff,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that's like it must have cost them an absolute fortune, but they're quite nice. I think I've got the Image Bank guideline that North did on the shelf
Oh, yeah,
somewhere.
yeah.
That's
I
what
forgot
prompted
about
me.
that. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, yeah, we used to my f the back to that first job I had designing wine labels, yeah, I used to we used to go through the books of stock photography and, like, let's pick a really good image of a tree and, you know, some rolling hills in France, but yeah, yeah, amazing
yeah.
that how things have changed in just a
Oh,
couple of years,
absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah.
insane.
I
Yeah.
actually think they would either scan it for you. You used to get a negative, and then you'd have to get it scanned. I did a project once where I got a photo, and they gave me an actual 35 mil, which I then had to go and get scanned in before
We're aging
this.
ourselves, David, we're aging ourselves.
We are. At least it wasn't letterpress. But, uh,
Yeah.
but there you go.
Well, what do you wanna learn about? What didn't we talk about, David?
So I honestly think we've covered it off, Tom.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we have. I think the last thing I would leave with, you know,
Yeah.
communication is really important, but I think the last thing that I would leave with is, I don't know who said it. I almost feel like this is a quote that just lives in all design studios is like, "We're not saving lives. Chill out." You know, there's this it's easy to be anxious, you know, in this time we're in and the pressures of deadlines and designers are people pleasers, right? We wanna do a
Mhm.
good job. We wanna have a pat on the back. We want clients to love the work. We wanna feel good about it, but,
Yeah.
you know, it's a struggle trying to solve something when you fear of a blank page and all that, or if something doesn't land, but so you know, and early in my career, there was this sort of sense of anxiousness that you'd be just worried that like, "Oh god, and, you know, it's the end of the world if I can't crack this idea, or if this client didn't like this work, like, I'm gonna lay in bed at night and have a sleepless night," and, you know, the older I get, I'm just like, "Look, we're not saving lives. We're really lucky to be doing what we're doing. We're a speck of dust on a little blue dot, so just enjoy, you know, enjoy the design process, enjoy the struggle. It'll be fine." I think that's just the thing as well is like, yeah,
Yeah.
you know, enjoy what we're doing. We're very lucky.
All right,
Yeah.
Tom. Thanks so much.
Great. Nice to
All
chat,
right.
David.
Nice
All
one.
right.
Nice meeting you.
Have a good Friday.
You too. See you
See
later.
ya. Take care.